As I am aware, you're very interested in what happened in the People versus Doty case today. He was in court this morning. My office asked for the preliminary hearing to be continued to tomorrow. As I've expressed to you before, a defendant who is charged with a felony has a right to a preliminary hearing within 10 court days of their arraignment if they decide to move in a speedy fashion and exercise that right. Mr. Doty exercised that right at the time of his arraignment, and so we were due in court today, which was the 9th day, in order to conduct his preliminary hearing. At this point, we were notified by Mr. Carmignani's lawyers, the victim in the case, that Mr. Carmignani was not available to testify today. He is a necessary witness in this case for a number of reasons, given many factual allegations that have come up. And without him present to testify, that created evidentiary problems for us. We went into court today and asked that the court roll the hearing to tomorrow, which is the 10th day. We have a legal right to ask the court to do so. It took some time, but the court ultimately granted that request. We have issued a subpoena for Mr. Carmignani through his attorney for his appearance tomorrow to testify in that hearing. We will make decisions as things continue regarding if he does not appear in court tomorrow, how we proceed. But our plan as of now is that if he does not avail himself at the hearing tomorrow, that we will seek an additional continuance. We have 60 days by law to be able to put in that preliminary hearing, although the consequence if we don't go forward tomorrow is that the court by law must release Mr. Doty back into the public.
Has he been interviewed by your office or by the police department? His attorneys say that hasn't happened.
No, and my understanding is that the police department has reached out multiple times to Mr. Carmignani and that they have not been afforded an interview with him. We have re-raised this issue with his attorneys. We hope that he will avail himself to the police for that interview. And again, even before that, we hope that he will testify tomorrow.
Why has he not issued a statement yet to the police or the DA's office if he was allegedly attacked?
That is unclear to us at this point. He has multiple lawyers that represent him in this matter. That information has not been shared with us.
Okay. And was it true that he was not subpoenaed by the DA's office today to appear in court, and that might have been part of the delay?
The attorney handling the case had been in touch with his lawyers to date. But no, we had not formally issued a subpoena. We generally like to have victims who are cooperative and want to come to court. Certainly it's unusual when we have a victim that's represented by counsel, but oftentimes when that's the case, that's helpful to us to facilitate their appearance in court. It appears the attorney tried to use his counsel as an avenue to secure his testimony, but was unsuccessful, which is why today the attorney, a different attorney that appeared in court today, did just go ahead and issue that subpoena.
Is he being uncooperative?
At this point, he is, like I said, not availed himself to the police for an interview and did not agree to come to court today. Victims are traumatized. They go through there's a lot of reasons why oftentimes victims are reluctant to participate in the court process, and so we know, obviously, given his situation, he was greatly injured, and we always want to extend our sympathy and empathy for that, but we do hope that he cooperates going forward.
He was on television last night saying that they had been notified that the district attorney's office is likely going to dismiss this case. Is that accurate? Has there been communication with his attorneys or with him that was part of the plan from the district attorney's office?
What I can say is this, that there was communication to that effect. We are an office that over the 2.5 years before I took over was decimated with respect to attorneys. We lost 62 attorneys, our most experienced attorneys. We have very young attorneys who are handling some of our cases, and there are extreme nuances in the law. And some of these cases are very complex and require an understanding of the nuances of the law. And so we have made sure that those who are involved in this case have an experience and an expertise to be able to make the critical decisions that we need to based on the law.
Is that something that's now been up that you guys are not dropping this case?
No. As I expressed, at this point, we need him to come and testify. We hope that he shows up tomorrow pursuant to the subpoena that was issued. If he does not for any reason, we will continue to work with him to see if we can get him into court. But as a consequence of our inability to put in that hearing tomorrow, the court will have to release the defendant.
Can you speak to this in a video there, right? Justice Carmignani attacking another
Right now, nothing has been submitted to our office from the police with respect to asking us to look at anything for charging purposes or the like. I have viewed a video, and right now it's simply an allegation of who it is, and so there's more investigation that needs to take place surrounding that.
Can you speak to the significance of an additional 7 videos, 8 total, that were turned over by the prosecution to the defense?
What I will say is the defense will determine how and if and how they can use those strategically on behalf of the defendant. Right now, I am concerned with the incident for which brings us into court today. So that specific incident and what took place at that time. And so that is what's mainly relevant at this point.
How complicated though those prior allegations of him involved in potential attacks? Does that complicate your case at all?
What I would say is it may be evidence that the defense seeks to admit at a trial, ultimately, or even at a preliminary hearing. So it's something that we will have to potentially deal with. Again, whether or not we can prove that Mr. Doty is guilty comes down to the actions that took place at the time of this incident, not something before that.
Hey guys, I want to flag time. We only have a few more minutes, so I want to make sure we get everyone in. I saw Brooks. Nora, did you have a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do Brooks, then Nora, and then we'll wrap up with the last question.
Just curious, Brooke, did those 8 previous incidents, one being the one involving Mr. Doty, have any bearing on the thought of potentially dismissing the charges?
At this time, we look at the single conduct involved in the incident for which we have received a case. That is what's at issue here, whether or not Mr. Doty committed a crime in this instance based on those facts alone. Of course, we always have victims, defendants who have different histories, and those may be relevant at certain times for different reasons. But at this point, we are only looking at the facts and circumstances that surrounded this incident.
Just one follow-up. Why, if that was the case, that Mr. Carmignani was spraying an unhoused person with bear spray, why had he not been charged previously? Do you have any thoughts on that?
In order for us to charge a case, we have to be submitted with a police report and a case. So the police have to make an arrest and submit a case to us. I am not aware that Mr. Carmignani has ever been arrested for any of these incidents that he, again, these are all allegations right now, but for any of these alleged circumstances.
I apologize, I was late, so this might have been asked already, but your office apparently contacted Mr. Carmignani yesterday to say the charges would be dismissed. Then sometime around 7 o'clock, his lawyer is saying that you contacted them again to say, oh no, actually, it's back on. What changed between those hours?
So what I said was we, during the prior administration, we lost a great deal of experience with respect to our attorneys here. We have complex cases that require an education on the nuance of the law. In this situation, it is a complex case. There are many nuances in legal issues that needed to be looked at. And so a more experienced attorney has allowed us to make sure that we are making the right decisions in this case based on those nuances in the law.
What
Okay,
happens if he
thank you.
doesn't obey this?
We're going to have to wrap it. We got to get her to her next appointment. Sorry.
So last one, if he doesn't show up pursuant to the subpoena tomorrow, he is a victim of a crime. We don't ask for people to be arrested and brought into court if they are the victims of a crime, certainly violent crime in this fashion. We will continue to work with him through his lawyers to see if we can persuade him to come in.